This conference will now be recorded.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about workplace sabotage. So, a lot of people would argue that it's not real and it doesn't happen. It's 2019, and the sad reality is it happens every single day. I could spend hours talking about it, but I will try my hardest to keep it to 5 minutes. So, workplace sabotage can be done by one person or a group of people, and obviously, the one goal is to sabotage you. So, it could be an individual or multiple people spreading rumors about you. They'll criticize you, your work, shut down all of your ideas, and just overall try to make you look like you're a bad employee. Sometimes they'll even go as far as withholding important information that you need in order to successfully complete your work. So, a lot of times, most people do not realize that they're being sabotaged until it's too late. The fact is, most of us are genuinely good people, so we tend to be trusting. And because we would never do something like that to another human, we don't realize that their intentions insidious and even threatening. I'll cover individual sabotage first, just because this one's not as elaborate. It's normally simple. The person just doesn't like you, they're jealous of you, and sometimes it's someone that's a direct competitor for a promotional opportunity. So we can all wrap our heads around that easily, and they normally resolve itself. If they don't like you, you guys normally just avoid each other. If they're your direct competition for promotion, ultimately one of you gets promoted and moves on. So again, that one's easy, resolves itself. With the group sabotage, that one's a little bit more complex. And with this one of the key things to start looking out for is how your colleagues interact with you. So if you normally have a great rapport with someone and all of a sudden they start to avoid you, that could be a red flag. So if you normally speak to someone and then all of a sudden that contact is minimal, and then if they do talk to you, it's like they're looking over their shoulders and being really cautious because they don't want to be seen interacting with you, um, chances are you're being sabotaged and there's something happening that you don't have visibility to. It could be an entire department or a clique that alienates you. And again, this is in the workplace. Seems childish, but it happens. Um, Kind of reminds me of middle school or maybe even high school. So with the group sabotage, I think this one, in my opinion, it's a little bit worse because it's a psychological tactic and it makes that person feel so ostracized that they start to question if they did something wrong or what did they do to cause everyone to turn against them. I personally think that it's the most damaging and it leaves everlasting scars for that person. Um, Hopefully, it's not something that's long term, but I do suspect that they'll have trust issues after that experience. So the question is, why is everyone collectively coming together to sabotage you? What's so special about you? So it could be simple, right? They just don't like you. You don't fit in. I've seen it where is like very laid back and they'll transition into a department where everyone else has a strong personality. Or it could just be that you don't fit the overall company values. Um, and again, you just don't fit in. So what does that look like? How does it work where you become that target or victim? And I say target because, and it sounds terrible, but I've been told on more than one occasion that there's a target in every office. And just really think about what that looks like on a day to day basis. There's someone that's going to work every day with either multiple people disliking and or trying to sabotage them throughout their day. Um, but what I was told is that having a target is fun and everyone actually likes to get in on that action, right? Because they're showing their solidarity and it's just picture mob mentality. Even though subconsciously you might know that it's wrong, everyone else is doing it, so all of a sudden it's okay. So being in HR for as long as I was, I found out specifically with group sabotage that approval often comes from the top. So management and or HR has to kind of give that go ahead, right? Or that nod. Now, there's going to be probably some HR folks that are listening. They're not going to be happy with me saying some of these things, and that's okay. This is a video for employees so people understand what happens kind of behind the scenes. And obviously, it's not HR standing in front of a podium and giving a announcement to the company that, hey, this person's the target, get them. But there's a acknowledgement that occurs where people are basically nudged to treat a certain person a certain way, and there is no consequence for that behavior. So if you are not a victim and or a target, and let's say people were doing incorrect things to you, you could potentially complain about it and those behaviors would be stopped. In this case, you really don't have an out because if you go to HR and or your manager who's given that go ahead to sabotage you, your complaint's falling on deaf ears. And again, as per my other video, going to HR in itself is essentially workplace suicide. So let's talk about like your manager. Why would your manager want to sabotage you? And I think this is one that I can go through fairly quickly because people have been in a situation where they dislike their boss, whether it was something where your boss was promoted into a manager role and they were not equipped for that role. However, they still were given the opportunity to lead people despite not having um, the capabilities, or sometimes it's ego, right? A lot of times, some, not all, but some managers do like to be the smartest in the room at all times. You might be smarter than your manager, and they don't want you around because you threaten their ego or that false sense of power that they have. So they want you gone, or they just don't want you to be their headache anymore, but they don't want to fire you. And firing you seems like the simplest option for everyone, but they don't want to do that because with the terminations comes fringe benefits, severance payments, sometimes unemployment. They don't want to do that. So it's easier if I just make you completely uncomfortable to the point where you decide to leave on your own. While they're doing this, they're going to have zero empathy. There's absolutely no qualms sabotaging you. And the problem is because of their title, others will quickly model or follow their behavior, right? So when we talk about mob mentality, and I think we've all been guilty. We see that person in the office that everyone hates, and even though you don't know that person or why everyone hates them, you just know that they're that leper, and you keep your distance because you don't want to be guilty by association. So that's how once they get that buy-in, it's so easy, and then having that willing cast of characters to play along, you're in trouble. So some of the things they might do is like they might say like you're not a good employee, that you're causing trouble, or they'll try to create performance issues. So performance can be easy, or it can seem simple. So it could be pointing out things that you do wrong, and it could be little mistakes. And what they'll do is they'll take those little mistakes that you've made over time and collect them and create this big issue that shows that you have a consistent performance issue. And with that, they'll use it to performance manage you out of the organization. If you're good at what you do and you have minimal errors, what they might actually do, and I've seen this and it's as scary as it is sad, they'll actually try to create issues. So if you've ever been in that situation where, a boss or someone with authority comes up to you and they say, "Hey, I sent you an email and I told you that this report was due a month ago and you didn't do it." Or I told you to do a certain thing and you didn't complete it. You know for a fact that you've received no such directive, but you just think that the person's made a mistake. Maybe they're confusing you with someone else. But because of that authority, you don't necessarily want to correct that person. So you just eat it and make it seem like you made that mistake. The first time, it could truly be a coincidence. It could be human error. Maybe they thought they sent you an email and they didn't. If things like this happen all the time, you're definitely being sabotaged. If you need further examples, one of those things could be I might tell you, hey, I need you to do two things. One of the things is a low priority. the other is medium, and then you find out, a couple of days later that both of them were high priorities and you missed the deadline. I might tell you that we have a meeting in 30 minutes and I need you to present at that meeting, but I gave you no time to prepare. Um, all of those things should be red flags, especially if they're happening very frequently. Um, so that you don't get too suspicious, they might offer you like a little bit of praise to your face, but behind your back, they're painting a picture that you're incompetent, intolerable. You might have great ideas that they'll either suppress or steal, and they might even go as far again as blaming you for those fake errors. Where you really get into trouble is where they start keeping you out of the loop on everything. And we've all seen it where there's that one person that's consistently asking a ton of questions and no one will ever answer the questions, right? Oh, I need to do this. How do I do that? And they're consistently met with silence. In those cases, I would really, really pay attention and just really start to question whether or not you want to be in that environment. Sometimes they'll include, um, I say, willing participants or maybe people that you work with closely and have them try to help sabotage you. Whether it's saying that you did something incorrectly, making it seem like you're not a good partner to work with, whatever they'll do to stretch, they'll do it. The thing is, once you recognize it, how do you deal with it? So if it's intolerable, you can document it. But as per my other video, it's kind of HR suicide, right? You document it, you go to HR, if HR and or your management teams in the know, you've essentially just let them know, hey, I caught you, which is going to be worse. Or you could fight to stay in that environment. And my question is, if the environment's that toxic, they don't want you there, and they're going through that length to get you out, it's probably best to move on. No job is going to last forever. So if you need to, just bide your time, dust off that resume, get out there, interview, and find an opportunity where you're going to be appreciated. So with this one, I'm ending the video slightly different. And it's just because I want us to challenge ourselves to be better human beings. So ask yourself, is there someone that you are actively helping to sabotage right now at work? If you said no, that is awesome. Good for you for being a good human being. But also ask yourself, is there that one employee that you heard a rumor about that no one likes? Person seems nice enough, but you're just scared to be seen interacting with them. If you answered yes to that, you can kind of understand where I'm going. I just want us to really challenge ourselves to put ourselves in another person's shoes. If you're that person that's being sabotaged, how would you feel? And if they're willing to do that to someone else, they're going to be willing to do the same to you. So I'll end on that note just to give that some thought and really, really think about that person that you know is kind of treated as that leper, whether it's deserving or not, just process it. So I'm going to end, and I thank you for listening in. I'm going to do my next video on employment surveys. Um, Definitely, a lot of people don't realize that these are not confidential. So I definitely want you to know what you should consider before you get Twitter fingers. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye.